Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. And today it's gonna be a very interesting subject. And if you are a parent and you're struggling to help your children in mathematics, you will be a happy parent today because I find a person that can solve your problem. No more stress, no more frustration, no more desperation. My guest today, and his name is Don Sevcik. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. We'll know later on. We'll explain everything to you. You're probably going to tell me, who is this person? We never heard about him, and what is the relationship with mathematics and helping us parents to to go through all the mathematics homework with our children. Guess what? I mean, he is the creator of Math Celebrity, and Math Celebrity is the fastest math tutor on the planet. Yes, you heard it well. The fastest math tutor in the planet. And in 2020, Math Celebrity helped 6.2 million students and parents in math from 235 countries. And Don has also written 3 books. And today we'll explain to us, how he did it with Math Celebrity. And we're also going to have a conversation on mindset and mental models for business and life. And so sit down, relax, and get a pen, a paper, and get ready to learn because I think you're going to learn a lot today. It's going to be an interesting experience for all of us. I am a parent. I went through all the struggle. My children are now, young adults. But I must say, I would have loved to have something like that. So my name is Mireille Tilekima. I'm your host. You know me by then. You often call me the Greatness Engineer. I'm based in Perth in Australia, and I'm very excited to host Don today. And so, without further ado, we're gonna bring Don today and have this amazing discovery experience about Math Celebrity and how he did it, and talk about how it can help us, in our life and help us release this stress that we always have as parents, and also for the student as well. So don't go anywhere. I'm bringing him now. To another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show that is brought to you by the Mireille Telekima Global Leadership Organization.
Feel is important is if you just look at the word compassion, when it's behavior, it's something that can be learned, and it is something that we can embody through habits and through our daily actions.
Like, what can I do now with this all experiences that that I have? And for me, it's knowing who I am, believing in myself, and trust, and have confidence that yes, this has happened.
To get this idea that if we interject this wisdom intentionally, I call them needle movers. It's the needle mover that's missing.
I was getting my first computer when I went into undergrad, right? And so I think that stick with what you're passionate about. And if you're passionate about learning technology, you're in a great space because technology touches every industry.
So welcome, Don, to the Greatness Engineering Hour show. Such a pleasure, and I'm really excited to know more about, Math Celebrity and see, how you manage to help, so many students and so many parents, because I still remember the frustration of trying to teach, to help my children when they were younger, with mathematics, and me being good in mathematics, but still having this frustration to do it. But, before we get to this point, I just want you to introduce yourself, let us know who you are, and anything that you feel we should know about you.
Thanks for having me. My name is Don Sevcik, and I'm probably best known for the MathCelebrity website. So if you don't know, MathCelebrity is an automated online math tutor, and it works just like a Google for math. So if you need math help, you type in your math problem, you push the button, and in a split second, we will show you the step-by-step line of work as well as the answer, and we do that in about a split second. And last year, as you mentioned, we helped 6.2 million students in 235 countries, and the site covers second grade through college, so it's been a really helpful resource for a lot of people. I've also written a couple books, and I've been tutoring not just on MathCelebrity, but in general for about 20 years.
So what's actually led you to start this project and really think about doing things online? Did you start last year, or is it something that you already have before the pandemic?
I got my start in 2007, so it's been 14 years now. And I got my start, believe it or not, because I'm incredibly lazy. And the way the MathCelebrity site started was I was working a day job as a programmer. And I just got tired of going in and working the job, and you get the 2 to 3 to 4% raises. And I wanted a way to branch out to help other people as well as make some more money. And so I applied for a site that you could tutor students in math, since I have a math major. And pretty soon, one student turned into two students turned into four turned into six. And I ran out of time because I was married, I had a day job, and obviously tutoring sessions take anywhere from half an hour to 2 hours. So I didn't want to give it up. I mean, the referrals were coming in, it was fun, and I didn't know what to do. So as luck would have it, at my day job, I had to build a system for a team in India to understand American pension plans. Pretty boring stuff. And all they were given was a book to read that was 200 pages. And after about a week, the team in India said, we really don't know how to decipher this, how to figure it out. We need help. And so it dawned on me, why not take an Excel spreadsheet and build the formulas for math in the spreadsheet for the team in India? But the twist was, when you change the numbers in the spreadsheet, the math in the spreadsheet automatically changes. So anybody who doesn't know what's going on can see the math behind the numbers. And so as soon as I did that, the light bulb went off, and the team in India said, now we get it. Now this makes sense. And so that's when the light bulb went off for me. I said, well, why can't I do this with my math tutoring students? Why don't I put my knowledge on a computer screen? They can add their math problem, push a button, and it will show the work. And that's how we got started.
So how are you not, making them lazy? Because that's also, the risk. Because they just don't have to study anymore. They just put it in there, and then everything is done for them. So how do you manage that? Because you're also a teacher, so you want them to learn math, but you don't want them to just do it mathematically. No, automatically without thinking. They need to, grab, a sense of what it means. So how do you create this balance between, what you do online with MathCelebrity and getting them to actually learn, a math in itself?
Great question. And I'll answer that with a little study I found about 2 years ago. A study came out, and it said that human attention spans have dropped to, I believe it's 8 seconds, which is 1 second less than a hummingbird. So how does my site address that, but also help students learn? And the answer is this: if we only have 8 seconds to get people's attention, every second counts. And so if you're a teacher and you're giving a lecture in math, The biggest complaint from students, besides I don't understand this, is it's a boring lecture, right? I don't have time to learn this. Just show me how to do it. And if you talk to parents, they'll tell you the same thing. It's like, there's a bunch of formulas thrown at me. What does it all mean? How does it all relate? So my site shows you exactly what to do in the fastest way possible. So there may be 2 or 3 or 4 ways to solve a problem. We're concerned with speed, because the more time we save with students and parents, the more we hold their attention. So if we've got 8 seconds to prove ourselves and get the students' attention, build their confidence, and show them, yes, even you can solve this problem, then the 8 seconds matters. And with the click of a button, which takes about a split second, now they have 7.5 seconds to read through the problem and say, yes, I understand this. I think I get this. Let me try another one. And so the big question, what you brought up, is, are we helping the students cheat? And the answer is no, because I'm not showing you anything a math tutor wouldn't. And honestly, what would you rather read? Would you rather read a big 30-minute boring lecture, or would you rather see in a split second how to do a problem in the fastest and easiest way possible?
And that's the, I think that's the question. That's really the challenge, finding this balance where you really want to help them and save time, and not make them lazy and not interested at all in it, to learn what math is all about. So, I mean, what is the difference that, because you said that you were a tutor before, and then when you implemented, MathCelebrity, what difference did you see, in the, first of all, your student, but then also the parents? How was the experience to switch from, the normal tutoring and, like you say, boring, way of, learning to MathCelebrity?
Well, when we got started, I didn't know much about website development, so I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants. After a while, I got some help. The site was honestly pretty ugly when I got started in 2007. It almost looked like a 6-year-old designed it, and then somebody with no art experience did a horrible paint job on top of it. But what we learned was students wanted a simple way to find things. And I think that works with Google or online encyclopedias or Wikipedia is, and this goes back to the 8-second rule. How do we get them what we want as fast as they want in a simple fashion? Because if you have to look for stuff, if you have to think about, hey, how do I type this or where do I go? You're burning brain power. And as you know, we only have a limited amount of brain power and willpower throughout the day. So the easier and simpler we can make it, the better off we're going to be. And that's how we got around the ugly website that I started. Was we just made things real simple, right? Here's a box. Here's a quick explanation. Put your problem in and get started. And a big thing we learned was people enter problems different ways. So somebody might say, what is the sum of 6 plus 5? Another person in, say, Australia might say, calculate 6 plus 5. So once we accounted for the 3 or 4 or 5 ways that people enter problems, we really were able to take a local solution and expand it, scale it, and make it global.
And that's actually a good point, because I still remember when I was trying to help my children. They were teach a different way from, especially doing all those addition, subtraction. They had a different way to do it, which was actually for too complex, and I was thinking, why do they do it so complicated? And so that's good to have, something that can be standard for the children, so that they don't really have to think too much and just concentrate on the task at bay. So I mean, what are, because the thing is, the student, when they use MathCelebrity, there's no how does it work actually? Is there any interaction in a way, or they just input things and that's it, that's all they have to do?
We took the reverse approach for traditional school. So in traditional school, your teacher gives you a homework assignment. You got to flip to the page, you got to read the examples, and then you need to start the problem. We are working in reverse. You drop your problem in, we will jump you to the lesson immediately, we will show you the work, and then from there you could see the problem broken down step by step. So the way it works is it's a giant algorithm. And for people that don't understand what that word is, think of it as a recipe in the kitchen. So step one is you take a constant, you divide by this number, and you subtract this number, and you get to the result. And so the way I work it is we're just building a bunch of recipes for students and parents, because let's be honest, we've got thousands of parents that use our site, and they don't have time to go through a textbook and go back to 20, 30 years when they were a kid in school and say, oh, how do I do this? The parent just wants to pop the problem in, look at the explanation, and then what's nice is their brain gets refreshed. They're like, oh yeah, now I remember this. When I was in 6th grade, this is how I did algebra equations. And I think that's a big reason of why we scaled so much is if you could save mom and dad, especially mom, because mom's busy, right? If you could save mom a half hour, an hour, hour and a half, that is life-changing, right? Because mom's got to help with the kids, mom's working, mom's got things to do around the house. So if you tell mom, hey, I've got this thing that can help you with math, she might be like, oh, that's okay. But if you reframe it as, how would you like to save an hour to 2 hours on homework, have a glass of coffee or a glass of wine while your student finishes their homework in 10 minutes and doesn't have any stress, you get mom's attention instantly.
Yeah, and that's what I say. I wish I had that back then because it would have saved me a lot of screaming and a lot of stress. So that's really good. So let's have a break, and then we will continue this really interesting conversation. And if you are a parent, listen, because there is a tool to avoid the stress that you're going through and all the screaming that you have to do to get your child to finish the math homework. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in few minutes. So we are back. We are back with Dawn, and we are talking about math celebrity, and but at the end of the day, doing when you look at what you've actually created, it's about looking at the mindset and the how people represent certain things. So how do you think the mindset and the models that people have influenced the way you've set up this website and this process to help the student and the parents?
Great question. So years back when I was researching people who've been ultra successful in any field, and I'm talking about people like Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, people like that. As I researched, the initial thought that people have is, maybe they got lucky or they had financial backing or or they went to a really good school. But if you dig really deep and you start to read, you'll find one common thread between all of them. And it's a tool, it's a principle called mental models. And once I found these, I was actually able to scale my business and my reach even farther. So the way it works is this: if you think of the mind as a toolbox, you're only as good as the tools in your toolbox. And so the mental models are the tools that you have for thinking. And when I dug into people like Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, they all use these mental models, these mental tools. And if you go through the mental models that they've talked about in interviews or that their co-workers have said that they've used in meetings, you start to find a pattern. And while there's hundreds of mental models, there's probably 70 or 80, and you can even cut that down to about 50 that carry the biggest part or biggest portion of productivity and output in your day. And so an example of this is the 80-20 rule. I'm sure some of your audience has heard of this, but back in the 1500s, there was an economist named Vilfredo Pareto, and he was very interested in numbers and how things work. And he discovered that 20% of the landowners owned 80% of the land. Now, as time went on, you can extend the 80-20 rule. If you look at book sales, if you look at movie tickets, if you look at records sold, it's not always 80-20, but there's this giant lopsided effect where a small percentage of people are taking the lion's share of the money or the winnings or the glory or the reach. And so if you dig into these mental models like 80-20 and inversion and things like that, and you apply them to your business, your life, your career, you'll start to see things expand. And if you do it right, they explode. And so just to answer your question, inversion is one of my favorite. And so I got this from Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger. And he said, a lot of people think that we're geniuses and we knew about investing our whole life, and that's not the case. He said, we take an active interest in avoiding stupidity. And so that's what inversion is, and that's what I had to learn, is instead of, if you're doing something new or you're trying to learn something new, most people ask themselves, well, how do I do this good? How do I be the best? The Buffetts and the Mungers of the world take opposite. So inversion says, instead of what should I do right, what are the stupid things I would do that could bring my downfall or hurt me? So in investing, if you make one bad investment with a lot of your money, you lose all your money, you can't invest again, right? If you take gigantic risks where the downside is maybe you lose your life or you hurt a piece of your body and you can never play sports again, that's a huge downfall. So all the Buffetts and Mungers and Musks are doing is they're asking themselves, what dumb mistakes could I make that could trip me up so bad that I would lose the game entirely, right? So you could think of it as instead of playing to win, sometimes they're playing not to make huge mistakes.
And that's quite interesting. I've actually never thought about it. It's because every time we're trying to win, and that's how we are taught as well at school. You have to be the winner, you have to be the best, and you don't look at okay, what are the scenario that actually gonna make me go really bad and under. I mean, there is a little bit when we look at since you're doing mathematics, when we look at the deterministic and probability, which is something that we do. We look at different scenario that can cater for the risk that we can, but it's not something that is reinforced. It's always like a deterministic case. You have to do this, and and then you will get to where you want to be. And that's very interesting to learn that the big guys, the one that are doing really well, are actually not thinking like how we are taught at school. They're thinking the other way, and that's an important thing to so that's actually what you do with the math celebrity, if I get it right.
Well, it's not only math celebrity, it's students and parents in math. So let's take the inversion example, which is one of my favorite mental models. If we're a math student, right, and maybe we're average, but we want to be great, what are the silly or perilous mistakes we'd make? Instead of trying to figure out how to get better, let's figure out how to not get worse. So if I'm a student, let's run through the inversion checklist. I would not get a lot of sleep. So I wake up cranky and my brain would not be able to process calculations or remember the formulas. I would eat a poor diet, right, loaded with sugar, so my brain can't process new things. I would be distracted, right, because a sugary, floury diet would buzz my mind all over the place and I wouldn't pay attention. I would not study. Here's another one. I would not study the best person in class. I would look at the average. So I'd look at my friends and say, what are my friends doing? Instead of maybe the quiet person and the quiet girl in the front of the class who's consistently pulling 96, 97, 98 scores on quizzes, tests, and homework. What is she doing? How does she think? How does she read the book? Does she even study like we do? Because let's be honest, 10 minutes spent with the quiet girl in the front of the class who's getting 98, 99s on every test is gonna yield more insight than spending 2 hours with your friends every day. So can you look at the best and see what they're doing? Because inversion, we would ignore them, right? What else would we do for inversion in math? Well, we'd have a poor attitude, right? Because a poor attitude ensures that I don't really care how math works. It doesn't matter for me. Inversion also would tell us that we wouldn't care about the why, right? So why are we doing math? In fact, that's one of the biggest questions I get from parents is, what does it all mean? When am I ever going to use algebra in school? And the answer to that is, if you look at the root, the etymology of the word algebra, it's an old Arabic word that breaks down into al-jabr. And what it means is the reunion of broken parts. So if you think about a puzzle, when you're solving a puzzle, you're taking a bunch of broken parts, you put them together, and you solve the puzzle. And so that's the big answer for students is like, what does it all mean? And how am I reuniting the broken pieces of the puzzle to get to the answer?
And it's a key thing, when you teach people or when you want people to get a knowledge, to really tell them, what they're gonna do with it, because otherwise they don't have any interest. And right now, I mean, because I work in the, in the oil and gas industry, there's a lot of things about oil and gas industry be destructing everything, and then with the climate change, but people forget that a lot of the thing that they use every day is actually based on that. The soap that they use, the petrol that they put in their cars, the clothes that they wear. So they don't really make the relationship with that. And I think there's a gap, like you said, where we don't really explain to people, when we tell them something, we don't explain how it relates back to, whatever they use or whatever they do, so that they understand really the importance and start to focus on the right thing, instead of just getting those generic messages that come their way, and that can really be misleading to a lot of people. So I mean, you have those models, and so how do you make sure people, because I mean, it goes really against what we are all taught at school. So how do you make sure with your student that they don't have this they're not conflicted in a way in their learning? Because then in one hand they tell them you have to be the best, you have to look for the best, you always have to be maybe first in the class to be able to succeed in life. And then you come with the inversion, which is, okay, no, look at what can actually put you down. So how do you make sure there's this balance and then there's no conflict?
Well, you touch on a great point. We see a lot of parents telling their students, strive for the best, you got to get the A's, all of that. They're focusing on outputs instead of inputs. What we're focusing on is inputs. So for an example is, instead of going for the big home run, right, you got to get an A on the next test, we're looking at the inputs. So instead of getting 100% better in a week, why not get 1% better every time you do homework? And the magic happens in a principle called Kaizen, which is Japanese for continuous improvement, small continuous improvements. If you make a 1% improvement every time you do something, after 30 times, you're not 30% better. You're actually 34.78% better. If you do 90 days, I believe it's 144% better. And if you do 365 days in a year of getting just 1% better at a skill, you're 3,777% better than you were when you started. And why is this important versus going for home runs? Because anybody can make a 1% improvement a day. It's not a lot. Because if you challenge somebody to do a bunch of stuff at once, the mind gets overwhelmed. They get intimidated. But if you tell somebody who's, say, starting a new diet, hey, or starting a new exercise plan, instead of going to the gym and working out, just get your gym bag out of the closet to start with. And they can do that, right? Because that's easy. It's a simple process to follow. And so what we're doing is we're trying to break it down like one little thing at a time. And over time, that makes huge changes.
And that's important because we're so used to the quick fix, quick thing and quick, and it's important to understand that it's a full process. You have to go step by step. It's a progressive process, and I think that's the conflicting thing that I was talking about, is that a lot of parents, and even they watch TV all the time, so it's about you can have it quickly, but then no, it's about a progress, and they can progress slowly and get to the to the right level as far as their progress is concerned. So we have few people here watching. There's Pat from South Africa. She's eat the elephant in small share. Well said. So that's good. And then we have Shirley from Nigeria. She's watching as well. And I think it's it's actually a good show for those part of the world where education is still very conservative, and it's about grades and being the best, and they don't really look at the progress like we talk about here. So that's very an important step. So let's have another break, and we'll get back and delve a little bit more on those mindset and models, and how they actually the key in learning and in making sure people get the right knowledge and get to appreciate the process as well, because that's sometimes the difficult part where we find it really difficult to learn, because there's just no flexibility at all. So don't go anywhere. We will be back again, and we're having a small break. We will be back. We've done.
Join former White House chef Marty Mangello as he brings to life colorful stories about America's presidents and first families that have occupied 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest.
Is when screaming guests are lit on fire inside the White House. So I know that everyone's thinking like, what did he just say?
It's time to be informed and entertained with Inside the President's Cabinet. Visit the website today at www.insidethepresidentscabinet.com.
So we are back. We are back with Don, and we are talking. We were talking about the mental models in, in learning and teaching. And one key thing is, because you said that the parents are also involved in the process in, you're tutoring. And so what do you see, what change do you see in parents? Because sometimes the children are so pressed by that their parents to really do well. So how do they, how do they receive, this new process, and what are the change that you've seen so far?
Probably the biggest change I've seen over the last 10 years is just the frustration with, in the United States anyway, of the process called Common Core. So it's a different way of doing math, and it's completely different than how parents learned 20, 30 years ago. And if you look at it, and I think the schools have made a big mistake with this, is they're forcing people to solve a problem a certain way. If you look at the end goal of education in schools, what is it? Well, we're trying to get a career, right? We're trying to make some money or make a name for ourselves, and it all starts with the education. So if we go to school and we graduate and we get a job with a boss, the boss asks us to complete a task by, say, next Thursday. The boss doesn't care how you complete the task, or if you're in business for yourself like an entrepreneur, your client doesn't care how the task gets completed. All they care about is, did you get the task done? And so that's, I think, the big mistake that schools are making with standardized testing and Common Core is there's different ways to skin a cat, right? There's different ways to solve a problem. And by forcing students and parents, by the way, with Common Core, there's just been a huge frustration, right? Because parents are coming home and they're saying, this is not how I learned. I myself have seen students who used to do the traditional method get 96, 97, 98 scores out of 100, be forced the next year to go into Common Core, and they're coming home with their head in their hands, tears streaming down their face, and anxiety attacks. Why? Because you're forcing somebody who knew how to do something right, do it another way, and now they're getting poor grades. And this is by far the biggest change I've seen. I mean, I hear it from parents every week. I hear it from students. And I guess to solve this, what I did is, for any math problem where schools use the Common Core method and we use the traditional method, and maybe there's another method, I build all the methods on the calculator. So now you can pick. But the beauty of that is you could compare side by side. Here's how my mom and dad ran it. Here's how I ran it. Here's the differences. Well, what happens is, through the power of immersion, which is another mental model, and repetition, your brain starts to pick up the nuances and the differences. You still may not like Common Core, but you start to understand it a little bit better.
So what are those mental models that you think are key, in this process? Because sometimes, there's so many things, but what I mean, based on your experience, obviously, what do you think are the key mental models that actually are really, we should focus on and really pay attention to?
So I'd probably pick 3 for math and math frustrations. We go first is inversion, which we talked about. Years back, they asked Michelangelo, how did you carve the statue of David, right? How did you do that? And he gave a simple answer. He just looked at it and said, I took a block of marble and I just carved away what wasn't David. Notice how he said wasn't, right? He's carving away what shouldn't be there, getting rid of the stuff that he shouldn't be doing. The second, and I mentioned earlier, just called immersion. So there's a great book called A Technique for Producing Ideas. I think it's only like 40-something pages, written years ago. And it's a 5-step process for generating ideas. But step 3 is, I believe it's step 3, is stepping away from learning. So the third one would be immersion, but immersion and stepping away are the 2 keys here. If you immerse yourself in anything for a period of time and you stop, and you walk away and go do something completely different, what happens is your subconscious has time to cycle through those ideas, connect ideas, and make connections that you never saw. And all of a sudden, when you least expect it, boom, you get the insight, you get the deep vision of what you were trying to learn. And so if you take immersion, you combine it with inversion, and then the other one is critical path. So what are the only things I care about to solve this problem, right? If you take a simple equation like 2x equals 10, we have three things, right? Or we actually have four things. We have two numbers, a sign, and a variable. So we don't care about anything else but those four items. Now the question is, just like I referenced earlier, the big recipe. What's the recipe to solve this? Well, I take number 2 divided by number 1, right? And that's the answer to my problem. That's all I care about. If I see an equal sign, I take number 2, number 1, take my letter, and I'm done. And so if you can cut away the fat and the fluff of textbook lessons and big theories and big words that they use in math, and just cut down to the core and the essence, those would be the 3 mental models. So immersion, inversion, and then critical path.
So yeah, inversion, immersion, and critical path. I mean, I must say, said like that, it just looks so simple. So I'm keep, asking myself, why are we making all those things complex? What can we make them simple? And it's for everything. It's for everything. We always have to put this, level of complexity that actually, repulse people, and especially parents and children. So that's really complicated. So I mean, when you have those critical model, obviously there's also the mindset attached to it. So how do you think the mindset is affecting either the student or the parents? How do you think it, what do you think is the role that is played by the mindset as well? Yeah.
Mindset is huge, and not just for students, but for entrepreneurs, for parents, for us, just as humans in general. If you looked in the last few years, and this is not just United States, but across the world, math anxiety is now a diagnosable condition, right? You can go to the doctor and they will diagnose you with math anxiety. What's changed in the last few years that we didn't see decades ago? It's the same math that we learned 50, 60 years ago. So what's changed? And the answer is noise, right? We see anywhere from 200 to 3,000 advertisements a day. We've got our phones beeping, buzzing, and making sounds all day. We've got people texting us. We've got jobs. We've got extracurricular activities. The noise is literally melting our brain. And what's happening is, if we don't have brain power left over, right? Because think of it as a battery. You've got a certain amount of brain power every day, and then you got to go to bed. You're done. The noise is draining our brain power battery constantly. And that's producing math anxiety, because you could take a smart student who knows how to solve a problem, but if they have that noise going all day, it drowns out their critical thinking of their head and their brain for the math problem. And suddenly they don't know what to do, right? They lock up, they freeze up, they tense up. What do I do? I forgot what to do. And the anxiety takes over. It washes over them like a tidal wave. And so the key here is just eliminate noise. And we start with one of my favorite mindsets is expectation. If you go back to all the philosophical works and the legendary books, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, Think and Grow Rich, it goes back thousands of years. Expectation is probably the key mindset in this game. And so the way it works is this. I've got a laser etched plaque in my office that I see probably 2 or 3 times a day, every time I come in the office, every time I leave. And it's a quote from the Roman poet Horace, and it goes like this: life is largely a matter of expectation. And what that means is, if I expect going into a new situation, meeting new people, doing a math problem, starting a new business, if I have an expectation that I'm going to do well and figure it out, chances are the universe is going to line up and help me see that goal. But there's a flip side to expectation. If you expect that, I'm clumsy, I'm not that good at math, this is going to be tough, well, the universe is going to fulfill your prophecy. And it's amazing, and I know we're getting a little metaphysical here, but expectation is a big thing, because your brain, your neurons literally rewire themselves based on your expectation. So if you deliberately practice something and you have an expectation of doing well, the plastic around the neurons that helps fire the electrical currents for thought to process gets stronger every time. And so expectation literally is rewiring the plastic pieces of your brain. And I think that's the biggest mindset. And the second is just positive emotion. So one of my favorite authors is Neville Goddard, who's a big metaphysical author. He's not with us anymore. But his formula for success in anything is expectation plus positive emotion. If you lace those two together, like a drink or like a pill that you take, you're almost unbeatable. But the key is you have to hold the expectation and hold the positive emotion even through the tough times.
That's very powerful, and I think that's, we have a comment from Shirley. She said that it's a powerful process. She was talking about the first, the models. And I think you answered this question. Why do you think students often have the math anxiety? I think you've alluded to it. She had that question as well. But powerful thing, expectation plus positive emotion, to get the success. And I think that's in a way, the base of a lot of philosophy. You were talking about life being a matter of expectation. It's the law of attraction, to telling yourself that whatever you think about, that's what's gonna happen. If you think something negative, that's you're gonna bring this negativity in your life. If you're positive about it, then the positivity will come. So it's in alignment, and those are key life law that we don't we don't get to learn them at school at all. And that's really refreshing to see that some people, especially like yourself, are actually now pushing it into the school system. I know it must be a very difficult process, because people tend to be very conservative in the education in the education fees. But so that's another question that I wanted to get. How do you make sure you push this those concepts into a very conservative education system? And how are you doing in this process?
So part of my business is coaching students and parents when they need help on math or just mindset. And one of the students and parents that I coached came into the situation when we first started working together, just with that negative mindset. Is just math is tough. It just gives me anxiety. I'd lock up. And I said, why don't we try an experiment for 7 days? Every day you wake up and you can call it lying to yourself, right? Or act as if you're the greatest math student that ever walked the earth. Act as if you're the math parent that can solve any kid's problems, not just your own. So write a little statement on the mirror that you see every day. I had them design a little piece of a background on their wallpaper for their phone that just had positive messages and expectation themes for math. Like, I'm great at math. They had a picture of Einstein, all that. And what they told me is after 7 days, after waking up and seeing that over and over and over and over again, they laughed the first day or two, but after 7 days, what happened was they had a mindset shift. They said, I actually woke up on day 6 and thought, this math homework's going to be easy, right? It's going to be, I'm going to solve this thing in 15 minutes. I'll be done. At day 7, they woke up and said, I was actually almost excited to do math. Why is that? Well, there's another mental model called the Pollyanna principle that takes hold. And what that means is, it's from an old movie way back called Pollyanna. And what Pollyanna does, she's a young girl that plays the glad game. So in every situation she's in, no matter how bad it is, no matter if the roof's coming down, tornadoes blowing, hailstorm, she always finds the glad in the situation. Well, what does that do? If we accept the theory that the body gives off an electromagnetic field, and magnetic being we can attract and repulse certain things. Well, if all you're focusing on is positive expectation, what do you think is going to happen in your life? And so this is the small miracle that takes place, is expectation plus positive emotion. You literally charge the field around you and in your head with the mindset and the outcome you want to see. So you start looking for it, right? You're almost like a success heat-seeking missile. Nothing that's going to steer you off course. And this is the biggest mindset that I teach parents, is forget about math skills, get away from equations and formulas, and get out of your head. Clear your head out, and when you start over, start from the end. Start with, I've already gotten an A on this test, right? That's another thing that Neville Goddard teaches, that and metaphysical principles that I love. Start with the expectation that you've already passed the test, you've already gotten an A, and not only that, go past that, right? You've graduated college, you've got an awesome paying job, all because you got an A on this test. And so if you start from the end, you're almost like projecting yourself in the future, but bringing it back now, your entire mindset shifts, right? Because humans don't like to let people down. They don't want to let themselves down. So if I expect, or I promise myself I'm going to get an A before it ever happens, you're going to make that happen, right? You don't want to let yourself down.
And we've seen that with somebody like Elon Musk, I mean, people like, I must say people think he's crazy, but he's always thought that I'm going to make it, despite all the different the different failures, and it just keep on going and keep on going, and at a point where you ask yourself, what's wrong with this person, why is he not stopping? It keep failing and failing, but it keep going until he get it, he get it right. And there's, and like you said, at some point, it's a process, you go through baby step until you have to accept that, and then until you get, but always stay positive and have this expectation, focus on this expectation that you have. Wow, that's a really amazing conversation. And I'm really so happy because I've learned so much. And I've always been somebody who think that education, we need to bring more diversity in education. I mean, not diversity in terms of physically how we look like, but diversity of thinking. And I think that's the starting point that you've cemented already quite a lot to bring this diversity and look at more at how people can capitalize on what they have and relate to their environment, instead of forcing a model that is actually not working for them. And that's the key thing. So we're getting through the toward the end of the show already. And just wanted to ask you, do you have any particular message that you want the audience to be aware of, or do you want to leave the audience with before we close on this amazing conversation?
Sure. And this message for your audience is just to help them cut down on the learning curve and the frustrations when they're going after what they want. And it's just going back to, instead of making a living, start thinking about designing a life. If we treat life as a book, we have the power to be the author. We can write our script, we can create the chapters, and as the author, we don't let anybody else grab the pen from us and write our chapter for us. So combine positivity, and not just good old positivity like be happy, but have a positive expectation of your destiny in your life when you write your message. There will be bumps, there will be people who try to drag you down, but if you can hold the expectation, write your life script as you are the only one that gets to hold the pen, things will work out in the end.
So I hope you got the message. It's just such a powerful conversation, and I've seen that there's a father from, I don't know where she's tuning in from, but powerful coaching session on mindset shift and positive thinking, and deal with your expectation to see your goals. So make sure you are the one writing the script for yourself. Don't let don't delegate this to anybody. And again, to the negative mindset, it's what hinder people from succeeding in every area of life, including solving math. Yes, you're right, Shirley, and we've seen that again and talked about it today. It has been a very insightful conversation and inspiring at the same time. And I'm really so positive about this process that you're starting, especially as an educator and as somebody who's coaching students and parents, because the parents also need to us as parents, we need that because we've gone into a different system. We've been domesticated with the education that we've gone through. So it's important to remind us that there are other ways, and we don't have to force a certain model or a certain type of education to our children. They can actually develop themselves in a way and get their own pen to write their own own story. So thank you so much, Don, for sharing all of this. And just want to know, how do people can connect with you, or do you have any thing or event or anything that you feel like we should know about?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I had a blast. There's two places you can find me. The first is the math site, MathCelebrity.com, MATH celebrity.com. And secondly, probably the biggest social network I hang out on is LinkedIn. So it's just DONSEVCIK, and let's connect.
Okay, fantastic. So I hope whoever was watching and or gonna watch the replay is gonna enjoy the session as I have enjoyed it with the conversation we've done. And I urge you, if you need more insight on what Don is doing, to connect directly with him on LinkedIn. And if you can't, just come back to me and I will connect you, because this is a very important important work, because we're talking about educating the next generation of leaders. And it's really important that we understand that there is diversity in all of this. We don't have to regurgitate all those old models and force them to fit into a box, because it's all now about diversity. It's all about collaboration. It's all about us knowing really what we want to do, because things are changing all the time. There's no way we can stay in a box. We have to be able to have this flexibility and be happy with where we are and what we have. So thank you so much again. Have a great day, Don, and it has been a real pleasure to be with you and to have this conversation again. So take care, and we'll stay connected anyway. So for all the viewers, thank you for tuning in. And as I always said, it's one thing to listen and to take notes, but make sure you implement whatever has been shared today in your life. If you are parents, make sure you take notes and implement it with your relationship with your children. If you are a student, if you happen to to watch this as a student, I doubt that there's a lot of students, but still share with students, for people who are listening, and make sure you connect with Don if you have any questions. So that's all for today. I will be back on Monday for another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. For now on, it's bye bye and see you next week. Thanks, Don.